Today was March 8th in the year of our Lord 1649, and Parliament was angry. So angry, in fact, they commanded a book be burned and a man jailed. The decree reads as follows. Mr. Millington reports from the Committee of Plundered Ministers the matter of fact touching the book entitled The Doctrine of the Fourth Commandment Deformed by Popery, Reformed and Restored to its Primitive Purity, and the examination of Augustine Nicholas, servant of Gertrude Dawson, printer of the said book for James Oxford, in the examination of John Hyde. Resolved that this book entitled The Doctrine of the Fourth Commandment Deformed by Popery, Reformed and Restored to its Primitive Purity, ascertaining the observation of the Jewish Sabbath, and condemning the observation of the Lord's Day as the Christian Sabbath, is erroneous, scandalous, and profane, contrary to the practice of the apostles and of all the Christian churches. Resolved that all the printed copies of said book be burnt, and that the marshal be required to do the same at the Exchange and in Cheapside. Resolved that all printed copies of said book, wherever they shall be found, in England or Wales, shall be brought to the chief magistrate of the place, where the same shall be found, and who is hereby required and enjoined to cause the same to be burnt accordingly. Ordered that it be referred to the Committee of Plundered Ministers to take care for the apprehension and imprisonment of the author of said book. And so it happened 370 years ago. Fascinating story I first learned about by watching the TV series The Seventh Day by Hal Holbrook. Take a look.
James Oxford was a Baptist who lived in the city of Salisbury, and in the year 1650 he wrote a book advocating observance of the seventh day entitled The Doctrine of the Fourth Commandment. One of his main arguments, according to the title page, was that the fourth commandment had, quote, been deformed by popery, end quote.
100 copies of Oxford's book were seized by authorities of the mayor of Salisbury, and a sample was sent to Parliament. Within a matter of days, the House of Commons condemned the book on the grounds that it was erroneous, scandalous, and profane, and ordered that all copies in England and Wales be publicly burned. Oxford himself was excommunicated and sentenced to prison. As for his book, only one copy survives to this day in the library of Christ Church in Oxford, England.
And so after 370 years of sitting, abandoned, forgotten, and thought to have been destroyed entirely, there are those of us who reached out to Christ Church, who were kind enough to digitize the book. The gates of hell have not prevailed against this idea that God's true Sabbath was on the seventh day, and popery, as the little horn power, has changed times and laws. There are those of us who realize that the mark in Dies Domini, as defined by Rome, of Sunday rest, is nearing a climax in this world. Comicy wants to institute it for all of Europe, to mandate Sunday rest by law. But it's a deformity of God's true Sabbath. The purpose of this video is not to read the entirety of John Oxford's book, but to highlight it and provide you as the audience the opportunity to go read these ancient Protestant ideas that realized that Rome had deformed God's law. The question is one of authority. Will you obey the law contained within the Ten Commandments, or will you obey the authority of Rome? John Oxford's book was condemned, it was burned, himself was imprisoned, and those kinds of ideas are going to be coming back here in the future. It's going to force humanity to make a decision. Will they accept the mark in hand and forehead as defined in Exodus 13 verse 9 and Exodus 31 verse 17 of God's Sabbath? Or will they accept the authority of the Pope to change divine law? I would encourage you to go read John Oxford's book. The gates of hell did not prevail against the minority, the remnant, those who keep the commandments of God and have the faith of Jesus. And we invite you as the listener to join this movement.